Welcome. Thank you very much for joining us for the 25th episode of YCP's virtual monthly series, Refiner's Fire. Every month, Catholic business leaders from diverse industries share spiritual and professional wisdom with us all in short 30-minute live sessions. And in spite of the short length of these segments, we hope the tips and insights shared will be really valuable for all of us as we seek to work in witness for Christ. The name of our series, Refiner's Fire, comes from scripture from Malachi, where we learn that God is like a refiner's fire who seeks to purify us and make us the best we can be. And that's the whole point of this series, that through the inspiration and wisdom shared, we can be inspired to improve in small ways in our professional and spiritual lives. So let's be open to this journey of refinement, that in everything we do it aiming for that higher standard of excellence. So our topic this month is the 80-20 day for digital teams, a holistic approach in your digital work. So today we'll dive into a framework for how to approach our work more efficiently and how to win the day in a more fluid manner. And I can't think of a better person to speak on this topic than Raul Hernandez Ochoa. Raul is a digital growth operator and strategist, and he's the founder of Do Good Work. So welcome, Raul. We're so glad to have you today.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jen.
So Raul, what is the 80-20 day for digital teams, and why is this relevant for us as we kick off a new year?
I think you mentioned in the beginning that doing things efficiently is a nice thing. You can do things quickly or whatever, but that's not enough. We want to be effective. We want to do the right things at its proper time, and adjusting our day and our life to working remotely, building remotely, having real relationships, living with intention, and setting that intention and having a structure to that. So I think that's why it's important if in any work that you're doing, in a career, in your own business, if you work physically in an office, or if you Zoom in to work every day, it's important to live out that intention, to have a structure how to do that in a simple and creative way.
Okay, I like it. So can you give us more specifics and any tips to how to get it started?
Absolutely. It's pretty simple. I've practiced over the last 10 years what works, what doesn't work with regimenting my day. So just to give you context, like I would wake up super early, work on the company that I was building at the time over 10 years ago, about almost 10 years ago. And then I would go to the 9-to-5 job, and then I would date my future wife in the afternoons or the evenings. So I had zero time to waste, and I was wanting to, how do I approach my day in an effective manner? So I studied all the books, all the literature, all the strategies, all the tactics. I've even gone to the extreme of like regimenting, quote unquote, my day in 15-minute increments. Definitely don't do it. Don't do it. It's not fun. So I wanted to come up with a solution that was both flexible, allows for creativity, because like I grew up in animation. I grew up as an artist, not in analytics or in business. I just happened to be in entrepreneurship. So I wanted to do something where it's creative, fluid, spontaneous, but also gives me the structure to be able to advance or move the needle in whatever aspect of my life that matters to me: health, spiritual life, family, our work. So to do that, really the best way is to kind of block out your day into 5 different buckets. The first and the last are pretty simple: your morning routine, your evening routine. Simple stuff. What do you do in the morning when you wake up? And living that intention. Instead of waking up, checking Instagram, checking the socials, checking your email, what are you doing immediately when you wake up, and setting that intention for the day? It could be you wake up, pray, meditate, go for a walk, do a rosary, whatever fits your schedule, your life, and your vocation. Evening, same thing. When are you going to shut off the screens? When are you going to transition into being intentional for those around you? So it's just setting those intentions at the beginning. But then when you start your actual day, this is like a Monday through Friday. If you work Saturdays, still 6-1, 6 days on, 1 day off on Sundays. If you work that schedule, you want to be able to start, what are the most important things that I need to do today? Not checking socials, not checking email, not checking Slack, and focusing on 1 to 3 things in the beginning of your day that are important to move the needle. If you need to send out a specific proposal, if you need to create this report, if you're creating a deck or brand design, or if you're working on a new piece, so you're writing an extra paragraph, new chapter, what is that most important thing, and budgeting that time out. And then from there, absorbing the stressors of the day. The stressors being, everyone's wanting to claw at your attention.
Mm-hmm.
Emails, all the calls, all the appointments, all that can happen in the middle bucket of your day. And
Mm.
that second bucket can last 3 to 6 hours, depending on how long your work day actually is. And then the final bucket, this one's a small one, it can be 15 minutes long, can be an hour long, it could be 2 hours long at max, but 15 to an hour where you're reviewing your day before you log off. You're reviewing what do I have to do and accomplish tomorrow? What's my day already planned ahead? And what did I learn today? Maybe a good reflection, maybe like a midday examine at that hour or 15 minutes. And that's pretty simple. So it's your morning routine.
Mm-hmm.
What does it look like? When you go into the office or you're going into your work mode and you're thinking cap on, you drink your 3 cups of coffee or 2.5 espressos, whichever one you prefer. What are you? Depends who you talk to. If you like tea, we can get the teas too. And then what do you have to accomplish? And then from there, just easily going through your day without too much stress. Because I think when you live with intention, things become simpler.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we feel like we're caught in a whirlwind or caught in a cyclone. And somehow it's already 9 p.m. We have to start it all over again for the next day.
Okay, so I love that, and I love that it is fluid, like you said, but we do have to kind of put a little bit of work into it, right? We have to set the boundaries. You mentioned that this is a structure for digital teams. Could you say it applies to people who are not in a remote setting or those in a hybrid setting?
It works for every setting. The way that I structured the original training in the book was specifically for remote teams, because every time that I speak at leadership events or when I'm talking to teams or I'm doing one-on-ones, everyone has the questions like, how can I integrate my quote unquote work-life balance? And I don't believe there's such a thing as work-life balance. I think it's living with intention. And the thing with remote work online is no one taught us at school, no one taught us in our work how to actually do it, how to do it the best that you can do it without working 12-hour days. I've had, women in Argentina who she was like a media buyer for a company that we helped grow, this woman, and she was working like 8 to 9 hours or 8 to 10 hours per day. We kind of consolidated where she can have flexibility from 6 to 8 hours a day. So cutting anywhere between 2 to 4 hours of wasted time. Wow. I think there was a report that came up, I'll find the source for you, but the average employee, like right now in the US, the waste per year per meetings that are unnecessary is like 25 grand a year per average.
Wow.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like 40% of someone's salary.
That's wild. And we have all these tools to be more efficient, but it's we can't outsource that, right? We have to kind of take ownership. And I really like the part about the reflection, right? That's bucket 4, right? Am I saying that right?
Correct.
Because I think that might be what we're skipping the most these days, since we're just sort of on autopilot and we're sort of allowing the busyness to take over.
Yeah.
I think we're losing that time for reflection, and that's unfortunate because that's where, we can learn, and that's where we continue to grow and also see ways that we can, improve. And so I think that part is really key. I mean, do you have any good stories there? How much time do you take every day?
I think that's really smart that you mentioned, though, about taking that extra time, because there's something that our subconscious mind can actually work harder for us. And usually you have to be in a relaxed state. Like if I take an afternoon or evening walk, either with the dog or with my wife and child, and we're walking, I try not to have AirPods in or to listen to anything, and either A, have a conversation, or B, be in silence. And even just that, just like not doing a thing can be very... And I don't just do things for the sake of productivity. Productivity doesn't matter. All that matters is living who you were meant to be from the beginning. And we can talk about that in a second. But when you do that structure and when you start to like let things like create themselves in your own mind, like, and not over worry, it kind of brings you back to like even in scripture, like don't be afraid or trust. It really gives you that humility and allows you to open up to like a bigger plan or a bigger scenario that sometimes we don't always control. I think the old analogy I used to use is I can make a really perfect paper airplane. Like you have no idea. My paper airplane game can be on fire. I'm joking. I don't know that. But anyways, I can make an amazing paper airplane, but at some point I have to let it go.
Yeah.
And the wind, I don't control the sun, the temperature, all that. I can control as much as I can, but there is that 0.01% that I can't control. Same thing with your day, and do your best to adjust to that and not saying, oh, I'm completely off work mode now. I'm all in either doing my afternoon, if you do jiu-jitsu, if you do family walks, if you're preparing, do dishes. Like, there's no such thing. Your brain is always on. You are always you. Doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or 10 p.m. It's always you. So it's how do you live with intention on focus, putting your focus in the right areas.
Such good advice. And, I really love the name of your company, Raul, Do Good Work. I think maybe you could touch on that a little bit more for us and just share how this approach ties to our Catholic faith.
I think there's, so everyone right now listening, or even you and me, we all have goals. We have all aspirations for our life. And between us and the goal that we want to achieve, there's a gap. And that gap obviously is activities and behaviors and focuses, which we just discussed. If you focus on the right habits, the right activities, you're going to succeed in any goal that you want, guaranteed. If you do the right things with the right intentions, the right actions, the right sequences, you'll reach a goal. If you want to run a marathon, you practice running, you'll run that marathon. Mm-hmm. Even I ran a marathon. If I can run it, you can run it. Trust me. Like, I was the slowest ever, but you can accomplish every goal. The thing that I thought was really interesting to hear, and a lot of either thought leaders or self-help leaders always say this, but actually I want to flip it on its head, is that it's not the goal that matters the most, it's who you will become. And there's always these change of becoming. Like, who are you becoming? And we always have this, even in popular thought leadership in the Catholic world. It's like, oh, be the best version, right? Mm-hmm. And I actually don't believe there's such a thing as the best version of you. There's no such thing. There's only one you.
I like that.
And what we're doing in our life is chiseling our way, all the mud, all the crap, to really be the original person we were designed to be. Like that original person of you. You're not becoming someone new. You're just becoming more you.
I really like that a lot, because that is a phrase that's used so frequently, become the best version of you. And it's almost, in a sense, that I don't know, it seems like there's a tinge of like pride that could come into it, but no, just be you.
Yeah, or it's like in this reality, the alternate reality, they're thought like, I have no idea. Which dimension are we talking about here? There's only one me right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really interesting. So, I mean, I could see some people here listening just saying, Raul, I get really distracted easily, or Raul, I don't really have the discipline that you have. You seem like a very disciplined kind of a guy. I mean, what would you respond, and sort of how do you bring the virtues into that? As Catholics, we all need to cultivate the virtues to help us on that path to holiness. So what would your response there be?
It's all the practice. Anyone who became excellent at anything sucked at one point, literally. Like, the best way to start something is to start it and do a poor job. That's normal. Even if you're doing your 110%, like even when I started, I was giving it 120, 150%. And then looking back, I'm embarrassed. And that's okay. That's normal. Same thing with when you're struggling or when you're working to maybe a virtue or a habit or a goal that you have. It's just practicing. For example, one of my goals back in the day, like I mentioned, that I would wake up super early, work on East Coast time. I'm in Pacific time, so I would work East Coast time, work the company, take sales calls, et cetera, go to the 9 to 5 or the 10 to 6 banker hours. And then from there, do the evening stuff. If I missed my alarm or the opportunity to wake up at the hour that I needed to wake up, I had to wait another 24 hours. And I would loathe driving in to work, knowing that I had to bear another 18 to 20 hours to give it another shot. But that's what we have to do. We always have to give it another shot. And it's just like the same thing. Like when you go to confession, you get out, like, okay, I can try again, begin again. I think that's what Jose Maria says all the time. It's begin again. And I think that's important to practice that. And same thing with, we've been trained, in my opinion, actually, it's actually a legit science. We've been trained to be distracted. Yeah. Our pings, our phones, notifications. The best way to practice that is just to turn them all off. I have 0 notifications on my phone, 0 notifications on my computer. If I miss something, I'll get to it, but I really don't. I have everything cycled into my email. So when I open the email, then everything will show that what I missed. On my phone, the only people that can call me are like close family, and that's it. And you don't miss out at all, because you set your own intention of, now I'm going to consume versus now I'm going to create and put out into the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Our very first Refiner's Fire was about being proactive versus reactive. And it seems like what you've done is you've set up your life, you've streamlined so that you can be more proactive, right? Rather than just responding to, everything that comes your way. So my next question for you is just about young workers today, and what are your observations in young workers, and sort of what advice would you have, especially in light of your 5 buckets that you shared with us earlier?
I think that one, this is the best time to be working ever. There's more opportunity now than there's ever been. Don't worry about the news. Actually, don't read the news if you don't have to. But right now, you have a competitive advantage by trying a little bit harder and caring a little bit more, which sounds ridiculously simple. And I don't want to dismiss the simplicity of it. But if you actually care about the work that you produce, and that the work that you produce isn't a job, it's a signature, you don't go to work for that company or for that outcome or that boss. You'll actually go to work for yourself. And when you do that, it transcends to opening up any other career door that you want. Because anyone that's you're working with right now, they want someone who's dependable and who just gets it done. They figure it out. That was the biggest learning lesson that I learned working online, is that, hey, I can figure things out on my own, which was bizarre. I mean, it's a simple thing to say, but when you do that, you flip the switch. It's like, wow, everything opens up. So I think those would be the 2 biggest advices right now, is that living with intention. If you do this, I'm fairly certain that you'll be, this is not a prideful thing, but you will be ahead of the game substantially. Because what do people do? They're 4 to 6 hours a day on their phones.
Yes.
Just look at the screen time, right? So if you don't do that and you cut that to 2 to 3 hours a day, you're already ahead. And then 2 also is going above and beyond, working for yourself. Even if you have a W-2, even if you're employed, you're working for yourself. And knowing that and living that out, it's different. It's different to have a work quality of someone who just gets the job done, who's someone that work quality is their personal signature.
I really like that, your personal signature. And it makes so much sense, everything you're saying about focus. If we as Catholic workers can have that focus, we will stand out. And it's also part of our Catholic calling, right? I mean, we are called to work well for the glory of God. As your company says, do good work. That's part of our calling. And so in order to do that, we have to be disciplined, and it just takes a little bit of intention. So we'll take one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience. So everyone, please be posting your questions in the chat for Raul. So one more question from me, Raul, is how does your approach help us to be better evangelists in the workplace and win more souls for Christ?
I think each person has their own temperament and their own character and how they approach evangelization. For me, I let the work do the talking. That's just my personality. So now I'm doing more talking. So I mean, there's I had to get out of that bubble. But I would say it's there when you practice this. I mean, this is a simple framework. We'll go into the actual tactics of implementing this. But when you practice it, there is a joy that you have in your step. There is an intention that you have, because not only do we know like whose we are and who we are, like our self-worth, we also know that we can solve every problem, and then we know that we have hope. And then when you do that and you practice it every single day, people just say, hey, this guy or gal, they're a little different, they're a little weird, like why are you like that, like this project sucks, doesn't it? Like no, it doesn't suck. Like it's a lot of work, but it's fun. That's like what a better thing could we be doing right now? When you practice, it sounds corny, sounds cheesy, sure, like throw that at me, doesn't matter. It does stand out when you go into, I wouldn't say battle, but when you actually go and do really good work with colleagues, it makes a significant difference. And that small difference not only supports you in your career, so you'll grow, but it can affect those around you. It's like, hey, why? Like it'll attract the right type of people into your life too, because they're attracted to that something special and they want to know more.
It is so attractive. I think someone who's living for God, right? Because there's, like you said, that joy radiates. And I'm just thinking of Saint Therese, who's we're going to be spending a lot of time with our conference coming up. But she sought out opportunities to receive little mortifications, humiliations, challenges, sufferings. She actually sought them out to grow closer to Christ. And she became, very attractive to her fellow sisters. And I think we can do that. It refines us, refiner's fire, when we seek to offer things in the course of the day for God's glory, because we have so much to be thankful for, and also we are called to more. So Such great advice. Let's see what questions we have from the audience. Okay, from Allie. So how do you make time for being available for emails, pings, etc. during your day? I'm a manager with people who report to me and have questions for me. Great
It's a
question.
brilliant question. So, in the Edit 20 journal, there's a free resource online. We can link that out. But
Okay.
you do your morning routine, whatever time you decide to get to work, and then you focus on your 80-20 of the day. Like the things that if I push this out and I did nothing else today, the day would be complete. It might take 1 hour, it might take 3 hours. Don't take more than 3 hours. But when you do that, once you push out into the day, once you create or co-create and push that out into the world and you've delivered that, then you open up your emails to intake the stressor. I call them the stressors. We can name them something else, but intake all of the stressors of the world. And those are your emails, your Slacks, your pings. Like for me, it would be email, Slack, some LinkedIn, but mostly I funnel everything into my email. So that's the way that you would do it. And typically to respond, I would open up 2 times to do the intake of the day. So I've been able to lead about, I think it was over 12. I stopped counting at 12 time zones, but it was global teams, et cetera, like the numbers, high numbers, whatever. The best times was that I found for me, and it was actually universal across different time zones. The best times would be around 8 or 10 a.m. your time.
Mm-hmm.
And another second time would be around 1 o'clock your time, no later than 4, whatever works best for you. If you have a big team and you have I would say more than 20 or 15 people reporting to you, do an end of day check at 4 o'clock your time. So that would be around 10, 1, and 4. And those times would be the best times to intake, and you prepare for the next day. Because if you don't do this, like I have a friend, actually family member, and what she was mentioning, and they're in the pharma industry, is that not having that intentional time of planning and receiving all the emails, and those emails would actually structure the goals for the day. And then you'd always feel behind. You're always perpetually behind on a perpetual hamster wheel because it's by design. But if you just flip it on the switch and you do the most important things first and do that second, you're actually ahead of the game. And it does take time, and it does take communication with the team saying, hey, I may not get back to you. You'll live without me for 24 hours.
Interesting approach. I hope that helps, Allie. Okay, let's see next. Emma, how do meetings factor into these different time slots? Do you try to schedule meetings during a specific time slot?
Yes, in the third time slot, so there's morning routine, 80-20, and then today, that time slot is the biggest time slot of the day. It's 4 to 6 hours, and that's where you would take your daily meetings. This is not always feasible. I know sometimes you might be on the agenda of someone else, but you can speak up and say, hey, can we actually move this meeting to the afternoon, or can we do that after 11, giving you the bandwidth and the mental space to think. The thing we have to think about here and know is that a lot of people don't do what we're talking about. Plain truth. That means that if you are in control of your day, you can determine other people's schedules. And it's not in any way to be manipulative, but you can actually influence other people's schedules to work around your schedule. And it's not because they can't do it. It's just they just may choose not to do it.
I'm just curious, would you mind spelling out for us your framework for the buckets? Like, what time are those buckets for you?
Sure. It's not perfect. This is not the gold star. The times that I say here are like ideal. Sometimes I miss them, but I wake up right now. I'm balancing everything and being a dad, so that's different.
Yeah.
So I wake up at 4.
Wow.
And I like doing walks or prayer in the morning. And then depending on the day, if it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, like I do Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Tuesday, Thursdays, but I wake up at 4, usually pray, walk, either do some exercise, and then create at least for 2 hours. I want to create. It's my morning time. I found that my creative peak is like at midnight, so I can't do that anymore. So I have to be nice and tired at 4 or 5 and start working there. I will do a workout, and then if I can make it to mass, and then I just start around 8:30, 9 o'clock for client times, client work, and then I take calls and discovery calls in the later of the morning, and then the afternoon is deep work, deep thinking, and then I build up in the evening for that fourth bucket of reflection and gratitude, focus, planning for the next day. and I'll take an evening walk either at 3 or 4, depending on the day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do.
Wow, Raul. I'm voting for you.
It's not perfect, and it's like it's an ideal. It's like we're all striving for that. I'm striving for that too. So
that's awesome. Okay, let's see if we have one more question. Allie, so what if you're not a morning person and you do better work later in the day?
That's perfect. So then you would either switch. I would still recommend doing 80-20 in the beginning of the day. There's a lot of study and research showing about peak performance, mental capability after rest, depending on the type of work that you do. Like, for example, last night I had a nice like dinner with a friend. He's a designer here in San Diego, and he was telling me that his peak design time is in the morning because he has higher energy, and then in the afternoon that's the slump, and he takes phone calls in the afternoon. That picks him up. If you like to work in the evenings, let's say your best creative juice time is from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Perfect. Schedule that in and schedule that in the evenings, but still at least push something in the mornings to be creative, because if not, you will get caught in the whirlwind of the day.
It's good to start on a creative note, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have one more question before we say goodbye to Raul. Ali, how do you begin again if you miss a time or a bucket to not lose motivation?
That is where I would say your prayer life comes into play. Like I mentioned, if I would miss my mornings when I would, like over 10 years ago, I'd have to suffer another 24 hours before I can give it a shot again. So it's all around, how bad do you want it? How bad do you actually want to do what you want to do? And this might sound a little like I speak to myself when I say this, but it's all around our behaviors, or my actions right now will determine the outcomes that I choose. And if I don't take the actions, I'm telling myself that it's not important to me. And when I frame it that way, then I go to I try to beat myself in comparison, because success isn't what you do better than other people. Like that's it's baloney. Success is you doing better than what you know you can do at that level. And again, chiseling back to who you were created to be, not because you're going to become someone new. It's because, oh, this is who you were actually are. What gunk got into your mind? What gunk got into your self-view? What gunk got into like your buckets from others, from media, from whatever like has filled your mind, and just removing that gunk away.
That makes sense. I don't know which saint said it, but the glory of God is man fully alive, right? That's what we're shooting.
I think that's JP too, yeah.
Yeah, to be fully alive. And I think that's what your structure allows for. So
it's a burning bush, consumed or like on fire, but not consumed. How does that work? How is it still uniquely itself, but then also transformed? And I think that's something to think about.
That is so awesome. Thank you so much, Raul. Really inspiring. You said you have something that we can send out. Is that right?
Yeah, I'll link it out. It's a free resource for the entire 30-minute training of how to do the 80-20 day with templates, downloads that you can just implement it into your life.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So inspiring. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.